This is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It is a document that exists as a poster, as a book. It circulates on the internet, and perhaps today most often it circulates in this form as a printout. More and more people around the world are using this document to do a kind of sociology, and that includes both activists and people who do that in a professional capacity. They take this declaration as a statement of what should be and compare it to the world as it is. The reason I call that a kind of sociology is that it involves asking questions about the social world and involves using a range of ways of knowing that are also sociological research methods. In the sociology department at Goldsmiths and in some other sociology and anthropology departments, we also use the Universal Declaration and the Human Rights Convention that follow it to do a different kind of sociology. We observe the people using those documents and the conventions and ask a number of questions about them. How do they interpret these texts? In which context do they use it in? Whose interpretation wins? What ways do they use to know about human rights and human rights violations? How do they make the documents come alive and matter in the real world? Asking those kinds of questions also means asking which interpretations are less common, which rights are maybe have less practical relevance than others. How do the conventions not matter in the real world? And if so, what exactly is in the way of them mattering more? Studying how these conventions are used, how human rights claims are made, I think it's also important to consider these ways of claims making in the context of other possible forms of being an activist, of trying to change the world, of making a claim and of knowing about justice and injustice. To answer these kind of questions, we do interviews with people who work for human rights organizations, for example. We do ethnographies of courtrooms, International Criminal Court, for example, but also national courtrooms. We study the media to ask how the media and how social media shape the way human rights are known or not known. And we research ordinary people's lives to ask how do rights matter in that context and how do they not matter. These two types of doing sociology with the Universal Declaration or with the Human Rights Convention have one thing in common. They both look at the world as it is with a view to how it could be different. Now that's on the one hand a choice. It's a choice we all have and we, I think, should make at least some of the time, because that kind of looking at the world enables new ways of thinking about it and new ways of acting. It's a choice, but it's also a skill. It's a skill that can be practiced, acquired, developed, nurtured by learning about the law, but also by learning about the range of research practices relating to human rights in the arts and in the social sciences.